Here.
JD Shrest. Here. Serafini is not here today. Miles Glover.
Here.
Sharon Jonasson.
Here.
Kate Kinnison.
Here.
Robert Lane.
Here.
Robert Mosier.
Here.
Josh Mutart.
Here.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Todd Shriver.
Here.
Ashley Stubbs.
Here.
Derek Whittam.
Here.
Connie Williams.
Here.
And myself, Jacob Whitman. I am very much present. All right, so we do have 2 new members. I didn't call Catherine O'Neill because she was unaware of tonight's meeting, but she is new. We also have Josh Mutart, so we welcome Josh to the committee. Josh, we still have to have the dean approve you, so if you have any votes tonight, you can't vote, but you're more than welcome to sit at the table, so just a heads up. Is it Dean Swagger?
Yeah.
Was out today, so.
Okay.
But yeah, him and Catherine are 2 new members, so welcome to the committee. Thank you, man. We'll go to section 3, agenda approval. And I would like to entertain a motion to amend the agenda. I would like to add, what would it be called? Yeah, annual report updates under old business.
So moved.
Thanks, JD. Is there a second? Seconded by, I'm gonna go with Derek on this one. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And then we have to approve the agenda, right? So that was just a motion to the next. Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the January 15th, 2014 agenda as amended.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thanks, Ashley. Is there a second? Miles? Sorry, Rob. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Thanks, guys. Move on to section 4, approval of the minutes from January 8th, 2014, which feels like several months ago for some reason.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded by JD. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, minutes approved. We'll move on to section 5, reports. I don't have anything to report. I did get a communication, but we'll discuss that under old business regarding the annual report update. Other than that, I hope everyone had a good week. That's it. Anything from you?
Nope, that's all I have.
Okay. How about you, Sharon?
Nothing to report.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to section 6, public comment. At this time, is there any public comment? Okay, seeing none. Move on to section 7, supplemental funding requests. We do have to vote on one today, which is number 1407. CCLP cohort is requesting $9,900. And I'll open up the table for discussion. Can you pull that up?
Yep.
Perfect. John?
Well, I'll go first then. I think this is a worthwhile project and deserves funding. A principle that I have in looking at these kinds of travel requests is that the farther the students are going and the more money they're asking for, the more work the students should have put into it in advance. For example, theater students that spend countless hours preparing before they go to perform a play somewhere, or music students likewise prepare for a long period of time, or students who spend a lot of time in a lab. This is a little bit different. However, based on the presentations we heard last week and before the winter break, I think that these students deserve some funding. I am concerned that 2 of the 11 students are in paid positions, however, and so my suggestion, And if you'd like, I can make a motion. My suggestion would be to provide funding for 9 of the 11 students and to ask the organization and the other 2 students to look elsewhere for funding.
Okay.
So why don't I go ahead and can I make a motion?
Hey, you can make a motion if you'd like, John.
Sure. I'll motion to approve $8,100 for this request,
Okay. Is there a second?
which just explained it's $900 per student, and that's obviously 9 times $900.
9 times 9. Yep. Is there a second? Rob? Any discussion? Miles?
So that you're asking that 9, so the 2 other students are the employed students you are referring to?
Right. I mean, we don't micromanage the fund, so
Right.
so once money's allocated, they could divide it however they
Exactly.
want.
Once-
They could give the money to all 11 students and just split it more
Right.
finely. But that's the idea.
That's the idea, okay.
I think if I remember, I see your reserves on that, but I think if I remember correctly, they weren't paid while working on this project at all.
Yeah,
So when they went to the meetings, they didn't count their hours for that. They're not getting paid for this trip.
can you leave it with?
We'll go JD and then John.
It was my understanding that, yes, they are paid and they are coordinating the trips and they would be paid while coordinating the trip.
No.
Not while coordinating the trip, like all the work standing here in front of us to get paid for it and all the planning, pre-planning before that, they're not paid during that.
We can get clarification from you.
Yeah.
I'd like to recognize the gallery.
Yeah, actually, I am the coordinating part. The only part that we are getting paid for is sending out the emails. So we get paid while we're doing it to send out the emails to the professors to come to the event, but that's it. The actual 2 hours a week that we dedicate out of our own student time, we don't get funding for that whatsoever. We actually take the time off of whenever our hours are to work it into our schedules to go to the thing. So the only time, and this event will come out of our pocket as just like as individuals, not as employees.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Is there any further discussion? Derek and then John.
So just to focus this, none of this actual procedure, none of the going there or doing any of the stuff in El Salvador is anybody being paid for, I believe.
That's the way I understand it too. John?
But I understand that, but my concern remains that 2 of the students are in paid leadership positions. They're being sent, or they are requesting funding to go on this trip, in part because they are cross-cultural leaders, which is wonderful, and I think they deserve to go and they ought to go. But because 2 of them are in paid leadership positions, whether the actions that relate to this particular project are paid or not, they are paid to be student leaders. And as such, I don't think that their case is as meritorious as the other 9 students who are student leaders who are not paid. I see the other 9 students as being more deserving. That's the basis for my motion.
Okay. Is there
Point
any
of
fur-
information. My call dropped for about a minute and a half. What motions are on the table right now?
There's a motion on the table to provide CCLP funding for the amount of $8,100, which would fund 9 of the 11 students, because 2 of the students are in paid positions inside of CLCE, but they're not being paid for the work done on CCLP on this trip. That's all that work's volunteer, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Is there any further discussion? Todd?
I rarely disagree with John. In this case, I think I'm not sure. I mean, I understand every point you made. I think they're valid points, but I also think this can be perceived as, possibly punishing students for being student leaders. Why would you be in a leadership position if you're not going to, be considered for things like this? So, seeing that they are not being paid for this extra work, and that they're part of this important part of this project, I would support, a full amount. But at the same time, I can say that we can't say who gets paid and who can't get paid. We only fund an amount, so that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Connie?
I'm going to agree with Todd. I almost always agree with John, very intelligent, but I honestly don't see a difference in this particular work than I would if they had another job on campus. So, you know, I really do think that reducing it because two of them are working, they're not being paid for the hours that they're going to be putting into this trip except for the emails they're sending out. I'm not convinced that's enough justification for reducing it for the two.
Is there any further discussion?
Jacob?
Ashley?
I'll
Yeah.
have to agree with Todd and Connie. As a student leader, I'd be rather dismayed if a program that I was extremely interested in just happened to be coming through the office in which I was employed. And because of that fact, I would have to self-fund or find other means of funding. I'm not saying that that's not possible, but I would be pretty disappointed. So I support funding this program fully.
Call the question? At least.
Vote. Yeah. All right. All in favor of the motion on the table? No. Okay.
I got confused for a second.
All right. Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? All right. That motion's denied. Rob.
I'd like to make a motion to fund the full $9,900.
Okay. Is there a second? Seconded by Connie. Any discussion? Jake.
I have one question. How many students did they say how many students would be presenting at source, or are all of them presenting at source? Like, are they doing a culmination project, like everybody presenting, or are there only a couple?
Out of order. That question is out of order this time.
Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, that's to pertain to the motion.
Oh.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. We will fund CCLP cohort for the full amount of $9,900.
Jacob,
Yeah.
you got it.
Can I answer his question? No, we're gonna all present as a group, because we're all experiencing it, and I think that's more beneficial. And I don't think it's fair to put a couple of students, when you guys have funded all of us as a group, so
Alright.
we're all presenting.
Thanks, Anna.
Example for future groups.
All right, with that, we'll move on to Section 8, Supplemental Funding Request. At this time, we have no pending requests. With that, I'll move on to Section 9, Old Business Annual Report Updates. And do you want to take the first two, and I'll talk about the last one?
We received reports, and part of that was due to Todd Shiver also contacting the folks before the letter even arrived. So the next morning in my inbox, I had theater arts, and a couple days after that, I had the Sarah Spurgeon galleries.
Thanks for that, Todd. We sent out a third one to the Monastash group. I don't know what they're exactly called. They're out of the English department. Monastash group, yeah. They're out of the English department. And we sent a letter. I don't have a copy letter with me, but stating our stipulations of having a report in today by 5 p.m. or there would be further sanctions determined by the committee. I have not received anything except for today. I received a phone call and an email from Carolyn, Miss Whitcomb. I don't know her first name. She is the leader of that, stating she just received a letter today and she wanted an extension until tomorrow.
Tomorrow or just an extension?
She said she could probably get it to us tomorrow, but so I sent it out Monday through the campus mail Monday morning. So I'm guessing it was probably just sitting there. I can't assume, but campus mail is pretty quick, so it was probably there for a couple of days. So I'd like to open up this discussion to the committee. I mean, it needs to be a committee decision.
Is that it, the Monastash? I thought there were 5.
No, there were.
Just
The
3.
other reports had come in, so
Okay.
we're
Yeah.
only dealing with the 3.
Only 3.
Robert.
What exactly are we funding them for? What exactly are we funding? Can
Connie?
They, well, what we funded them for, correct me if I'm wrong, Sharon, but I remember last year they do a publication of works by students, and I don't know if faculty or staff are included, but poetry, I think, is the main piece of it. It's an incredible book. I've got one actually in my office. So it basically is, we help with the cost of producing this book, which then gives widespread audience to our students who write.
Thanks, Connie. Rob?
Do we know when the other two groups are got their letters?
Did it earlier this week. I believe it was Monday.
They actually did it before the letter came because of
Well, but-
phone call.
Yeah, thanks for that, Todd. Connie?
Question, did she give any other explanation? Did she say she was out or traveling?
No,
or-
she. Should I pull the email?
When was it originally due?
December 1st.
And
she-
we gave them an extension through, we requested when.
Oh, you weren't here last week, were you?
I was, but haven't.
Yeah, that's right. We gave
So
them
when did we ask them to have it to us by?
this Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Okay, and she contacted you today?
today, saying she just got a letter today, but I had sent it out Monday through campus mail. And that was an extension from December 1st, so we're talking a month and a half later. She did have not a really, I mean, you saw the email, right? Wasn't an excuse. It was just, you know, she chairs. She's the like co-chair of something, faculty senate. She's in charge of a bunch of students, and I think honestly just got lost. But,
You know, my thought is it's really quite an amazing accomplishment. It does spotlight a lot of our students. It's possible, I know there are people that I overlook their email and correspondence for a day or two. My thought is that we allow a little bit more time for her request, but don't allow her a lot of time.
yeah, I see your point. Day or two is a lot shorter than a month and a half. We'll go Robin and Tom.
Oh, you touched on how it shows our students' talent or their writing abilities, and it would be kind of unfortunate to punish our students for the mistake of one person who knew that they should have got it in. I mean,
Well, every
I know.
S&A funded entity reflects back on our students, so we got to keep that in mind. Like, what if campus activities had gotten theirs in late? That affects 9,000 students.
Yeah.
So, Todd.
In talking to the art chair, he said that he did receive the email, but he also thought that the gallery director was getting it. In the past, apparently, I don't know, but in the past, I think they were both receiving the emails, and so he assumed that, you know, she got it too. I mean, you know, and so he didn't pay attention. That's how come theirs went a month late. And he found out she wasn't receiving any other emails or letter or whatever it was.
Okay.
So there was a miscommunication
Yeah.
there. I'm not, you know, I'm just saying these things happen. I think he requested that the director of the gallery receive those notices from him. Did he say anything to you, Sharon?
He did not, but
This is what
they
I saw
are the
him
ones-
today, and I was getting on to him about
The
it.
art gallery changed their contact information.
Oh, okay.
When the new chair of
Okay.
the art department came.
So, yeah, that was just, it was an honest mistake, you know, and I'm not making excuses for other people, but it very well could have happened with this, the next dash too.
Well, can you pull it
Which
from
email?
the email she had sent me? I think I forwarded it to you.
You did, I just
I'll show you guys the communication that she had sent me. So, any further discussion on that? I know last week we had talked about kind of like putting our foot down, for lack of better words, and keep that in mind. We'll go JD and Robert.
And just to kind of carry out that, I think if too much leniency would show that if we're not using enough of our teeth, if you will, and there's, you know, it's something that it shouldn't be taken lightly. And granted, you know, things do happen like that. But there was also a long period of time before we even gave them a second warning.
Robert and then Derek.
I was basically going to say the same thing
Okay.
you just said.
Derek.
I was going to expand on that and say that this is a great example because there's a very, very, comparatively small amount of money that if let's just say for a second, if we entirely took it away from them and made them come back to us, it wouldn't cripple them because they don't need it this instant. But it would send a message to everybody that you have to do it.
It would set a precedent.
You have to do it.
Well, I want to clarify something though. Sharon, if we basically take the fact that they have not met the requirements, does that mean that we have to take back the base that we've already given them? What is that? What are the repercussions of that decision to that organization?
So they can be penalized.
It could be, it's up to the committee. We talked about last week. It was a great conversation.
First time that we've actually had some.
There's no
Maybe
written.
penalty for
Yes,
future.
it does say that it could affect their funding.
It does say, but it doesn't say how. That was up to the
Okay,
committee.
that's what I want to be clear
Yeah,
on.
we
It
talked
doesn't
about
say
maybe
how.
future, like a 2%. For example, that idea was brought up last week. Just for example. Of course you can.
Given the impact to students, and I hear what the committee is saying, which is why we wanted the committee involved in the decision. But if they have the letter, there's no excuse on them being put on notice. Even if you said by Friday at noon or something, or your funding will be impacted or something. I'm just trying to give you guys ideas of, you can still have teeth, but it's totally up to the committee. It's not going to affect this year's funding. It's going to affect next year's, and it will impact. This is their publication costs of creating the book. So.
Okay. Any further discussion, Eric?
So I think the students and the state of Washington and the various other stakeholders have an expectation that the money is going to be spent wisely, and in order to know that the money was spent wisely, we need them to tell us how they spent the money. And if they're not willing to do that after a month and a half, I don't think they can be trusted with it. That's just my personal opinion.
Connie?
Well, with all due respect, really, because I do respect your opinion, they haven't denied that they're going to do it. I mean, I do agree that they have not met, and of all people here, because I'm responsible for the audit, that's super important to me. My thought is that they have to meet that requirement. They haven't come back to us and said they will not do it. They've just asked for another day. So what we could do feasibly is, if so decided, give them this additional extension, but this is the final one. And we could still impact their future funding. I mean, we could still penalize the lateness of the report. I'm a little concerned about taking their base funding away from them.
That's what the initial letter was, and that's kind of what we had talked about last week. Yeah. Joe.
Just a couple other points on my side is, while the due date was December 1st, I want to remind everyone that we did have the winter break, and since this is a faculty member, there's a good possibility that they just returned last week. So really there's only 2 weeks of potential working that they've been here that may not have been turned in. As well as the letter was sent out on Monday, correct, Jacob? And if this person was teaching, there's a good possibility that they weren't in their office during the times that it got there until yesterday or today. So even though the letter may have gotten there, a 2-day turnaround for faculty and staff on their campus mail may be a little strict in terms of cutting funding, in my opinion.
You say the due date was December 1st. I'd like to remind you those were sent out in October to get them done. So that's well over a month. I think we're going to go JD, Miles, Derek.
Really quick, I just also want to point out that in this email, and I don't know if you had received any of the communication from them, nothing was said of that October to December period. They didn't say like I never got an email saying it. There's nothing that was said anywhere about the initial due date of December 1st. Only the one by the date.
Like saying that's not very much lead time, whereas Miles and Derek.
I kind of do agree with Eric, just for the fact that as this committee, we do need to set a standard to all the people that we fund, because if we give these people, this group an extension, what is it to say that another group might get word of this and like, okay, well next time, they might be lenient and they might give us an extension, but we have to set that standard that, you know what, when we ask for something, and we give you over a month to get it to us, we do expect it because it is, oh, sorry, yeah.
3 months.
3 months, actually. 3 months of that is kind of like, I kind of take it as like a slap in the face of this committee because you are not, it's not that hard to read an email. It's not. To check it, to read it, and then say, okay, put it in your schedule. Because I know we all have busy lives, but at the same time, there's things that do need to get done. And if you're asking for funds from us, which is substantial funds, I feel that just as a respect factor, you should respond in some matter saying, okay, I did receive my email, I will get to it when I can. Not like, oh, when we're about to maybe like affect your funding, now you want to respond to us. Now you're really scared and you need to, okay, now I need to do it. No, you need to do it when we ask because it's a respect.
Derek?
So my question is, if they don't turn it in tomorrow, then what?
Yeah.
We go to the next day, and a day more, and a day
Right.
more, until they finally get it in a year from now? I mean, at what point do we say, now, and there's no more ifs, ands, or buts? I mean, really, there should have been no ifs, ands, or buts after December 1st.
I think this is obviously a pivotal moment for like the committee and like a huge decision because it sets a precedent for further years. Thankfully, it's not a mass. Obviously, it's a program that affects a lot of students, but it's not the BOD that's $155,000. So we do need to set a precedent and think about the future years as well. So keep that in mind. We'll go JD and then Sharon.
Sharon, how much do they receive from that?
4,000.
It was 4,200.
4,200. Yeah.
And the committee can do something from a range of, you have to come up and do face-to-face annual reports every year. It doesn't have to be monetary, or you can say we're going to reduce it by 8%, and if we don't receive it by, like, I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of ranges where you're still setting boundaries, like if you said, we don't receive it by Friday, it's 10%. If we don't get it then, to say you're see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I will, can I?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It is in our policies and procedures. Folks are expected to be reading those when they apply for funding. So and they have been submitting their reports for the last several years.
We'll go Miles, Derek.
I just thought of this honestly, with the reading of the the rule is that if you don't turn it in, it might affect your funding. Honestly, for the future, we need to set an actual guideline. So if we don't get it by this day, this is what happens. This is what happens. Because with that, I feel like it's kind of vague.
Still flexibility.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much flexibility for them to. Okay, so I don't know. They might take like 91% of my funding. That's fine. No, we need to set a precedent. This is what will happen. So,
Derek?
So, two things. On what he's saying, I would say that going forward, it should be a thing where you submit what we ask for on the day that we ask for, by the day that we ask for, or your funding is canceled, and if you want funding, you gotta come back as if it were base year. You have to come in and justify why it is that we should be funding you. If you have more funding, it's not.
We'll go Robert and JD, but before that, do you think this is something maybe a subcommittee could work on, like annual report guidelines?
I have a question for you with that person.
To that? Okay, well, then we'll go JD and Robert, sorry.
John, you served on another committee very similar to this, correct, in another university? Or
Yes.
Did you have anything like that? Did you guys ever had to handle anything like this?
Well, I don't remember it being so formal there, so the answer is no, I don't remember there being this kind of formal penalty imposed for failing to report.
Robert, and then Todd.
Why I like Miles' idea, the only reservation I have about that is what Todd mentioned with, there's that turnover in the art department. When something bad happens in October or something, you don't know why someone might leave the department or something like that. And so it'll be a very chaotic time, I would imagine, trying to switch things around, and it might cause a December 1st delay. So I don't know if that's
Yeah.
the best idea.
I agree with
There
that.
should still be some sort of penalty, and especially in this case, because the letter was sent out, and we said, here's our deadline, if it's not met, there will be a repercussion. So I think there still should be something.
I like to, this might be a little extreme, think of it as almost like a credit card bill. I mean, we fund their program.
Exactly.
We fund their program. The whole BOD is funded. The whole, I don't know if their whole Manassas is funded by us, but we fund them. If you're late on a credit card payment, there are repercussions. With that said, we'll go to
Can
Todd.
I speak?
There's a long line.
She can go.
Okay, you can have me to it.
Okay, Todd, Miles,
Oh,
Derek, Ashley.
Okay, I'll just, I'll say, from my perspective, which she was obviously a busy person, and I'm a busy person, we're all busy. The to whom it may concern could have sat in the mailroom for a while. It's not addressed to a person. So, when the student worker gets that mail, to whom it may concern, it may go in some, big pile of junk mail. But that being said, I can see, given the volume of paperwork and the priorities of academia, that a person could get sidetracked. I mean, I can, so this is why I'm taking a little bit of a soft approach. If they can get, if she called you today, got this letter and got in a panic and said, oh my God, I can't get it by 5, it's 2 now or whatever, but I can get these numbers together for you tomorrow. That's seems reasonable to me. And it's funny, this is a role reversal. Usually as the chair, I'm the person being the hard, the drawing the line. The students are begging for leniency, and now it's a role reversal, so it's odd for me. But I just I don't want to get too. This is 3 groups, okay, but 1 group. It's never happened before. It's not a big problem. It's let's put it into perspective, and let's also be careful that we're not getting a kind of a group mentality here. Let's put a human side to this, and let's sit back and look at it as 1 group. She's contacted you. She's seemed apologetic, or at least making some excuses, and she says, I can get it to you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me.
Well,
but,
yeah, I
just
worked in the
careful.
mailroom last year,
Yeah.
and I worked in Central's mailroom, and it got delivered that afternoon. I'm sure of it. So it was sitting in the English department, and it had all the information on it. Yeah.
A
So
lot of people.
I made sure it was directly to the
Who's
right
it
person.
directed to?
It was Carolyn
Manassas?
Whitcomb. Manassas. She said Manassas English department. So I made sure it wasn't vague enough.
Well, yeah, I'm not making excuses
Yeah,
for her.
of
but
course,
I'm just
of course.
saying I can definitely see a chain of events that would cause this to happen, and I hate to see them be punished if this was if they were a chronic. If this was a chronic problem, then I can see how we would say, oh, we're going to put our foot down. But I don't see this as a
Well, yeah, it's quite the opposite. It's the first time, like you mentioned.
first
So
time. It's
whatever we decide here is going to probably affect future decisions. We'll go Miles, and then
I just want to comment on Robert's suggestion. Honestly, in my opinion, I feel that with the new directors of the department, is that correct? I just feel that a simple email just stating the obvious, like, yes, there's been change, and yes, I may be late. It's not that hard to do.
there was no change in director.
There was no change.
It's been the same for years.
So, sorry.
Well, yeah.
This
Well,
one's the one we're
the arts,
Yeah.
they're good.
But this one specifically.
Okay,
This
so
one
this-
specifically.
That's
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
And I would like to mention that we've been talking about this for 20 minutes now, so we can entertain a motion to extend discussion until 6:30. Derek,
So moved.
is there a second? Miles, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we'll discuss this till 6:30. Derek.
So, is there any way of finding out approximately or maybe exactly how many times we've mentioned this to them?
At least 4. Or at least for my
I mean, it's not twice. It's more than that, right? And I think it's probably more than 5 times over the course of 3 months now, from October to now.
I would say at least 3 times because the welcome back letter and then I resent the forms and another, and I sent a reminder email. So I think it's been three that I've sent.
Plus
3
my,
plus
Plus
2.
plus I will say that this is the same person that's requested base funding at least quickly looking the last 2 times and has been turning in annual reports. I think to just say you're done would be pretty extreme.
Can we do that after it doesn't come in tomorrow?
The committee makes the decision. I'm not going to say yes, no, or whatever. But
Ashley.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion.
Oh.
I move that Jacob submit a response to the group in the following way. Because the deadline was not met, the Manassas group will be placed on funding probation for the remainder of the quarter. Please submit your report ASAP to resume receiving funding next quarter. If you wish to resume funding before the end of the quarter, please schedule a time to speak with the committee. End of motion.
Okay.
can I suggest a friendly amendment?
Yes.
It's not quarterly funding, it's annual funding, so wherever you input the word quarterly, it would need to be annual to be technically correct.
Would you
We've
like,
already funded for the
yeah.
entire year.
Would you like to rescind your motion on that, Ashley?
Yes, I
Okay.
think it would be good for them to see us face to face, and we could ask.
Okay.
Maybe it'll scare them a little.
Am I allowed to make mine?
There's a motion on the table already.
Oh, are you rescinding that, Ashley, or?
No, I'd like to keep it with the friendly amendment, so that the amendment will now say that the group will be placed on funding probation for the remainder of the year. Please submit your report ASAP to resume funding next year, and you may schedule a time to come in and speak with the committee to resume funding.
Is there a second?
No, I have a question for Sharon on
Okay.
this topic.
Okay.
I think that's
Can I ask that?
Because
Because I mean,
There's a motion on the table right now.
we have to wait till there's a second. Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay.
Can I
Any
ask
discussion?
a question of Sharon about what effect this motion would have?
Yeah, that's why I have a question too.
It-
What is probation?
So basically, they have funding already for the current year.
So we can't take that money.
There would be
You wouldn't,
no
you
effect.
can't take that money back.
We can only take
You
it.
can require them, as she's saying, to come in and maybe present in person,
Yeah.
but so that they realize it's not just sending off an email now. And if we don't get them in, which her motion is saying, then it'll affect next year's funding.
Okay, so basically what her motion is saying is, this is the last time you're gonna get funded until you come in.
But no, yeah, but they're already funded for this year. So
Right.
actually, there would be no monetary sanctions this year. Is that what you were looking for?
No, I guess I'll have to restructure
Can I make a friendly amendment?
my motion. Yeah, what is it?
Can I make a friendly amendment real quick? Colin?
Yeah, and I think I was gonna make one.
I would like to see a penalization of 2.5% and decrease in funding for the next year, along with the stipulation that they have to come to face-to-face presentation. Because 2.5% is not too big of a hit, but I'd like to see the face-to-face.
So can you clarify that this 2.5%?
Decrease
Will
in
be-
funding for the 2014-2015 year,
Mm-hmm.
along with the stipulation that Monastash Group has to come for a face-to-face presentation in front of the committee.
And after they come for the face-to-face presentation, this 2.5%, it will still be in place.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Miles, do you agree to that?
Yeah. know she knows raise her hand.
You have to. Why would
This is getting
How did you know Miles is going next? Actually, I think you have to agree to it because it's a friendly amendment.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree to it.
Okay.
Now Miles has to.
Okay, Connie?
But I wanted to add one thing. To clarify, have they actually expended what they've been funded? Could we not suspend the ability to utilize the funds for this year? Have they already expended them?
I don't.
I would think that if they've not expended, if we have the budget for this year already approved, and I don't believe they've probably expended it yet, why could we not just put them on probation for use of those funds until they present in person to the committee? Because I haven't seen a book come out yet. That would be impacting them immediately, basically.
I agree. Ashley, I need my parliamentarian here.
All right.
You accept my friendly amendment. What does that make us stand? We only have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I've accepted your friendly amendment. Miles has to accept it next.
No, why
And
does
then
Miles?
the
You mean
only
you mean
people have to vote
Derek? You mean Derek? Because Derek seconded the first one.
Oh, did Derek second my motion?
Yeah, that was Derek, not Miles.
Was it?
Okay, so Derek has to accept it.
So Derek, do you second the friendly amendment?
Do I accept it and I second it?
You do.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
So
Great.
now we're on discussion with a 2.5% decrease for the next funding cycle, next funding year, 2014-2015, and a stipulation for face-to-face presentation. By the way, 2.5% is like $65. Okay. So, is there any discussion on that? Miles.
So going back to Connie, I kind of do agree with what you're saying. So I'm like, what steps do we have to take to see that happen by Sharon? Or
Miles, out of
sorry.
order.
That's out of order. That's nothing to do with
The motion
this
on the table.
this motion. So,
Do we have to vote on this?
any further discussion? Robert.
Can we have the motion read back?
Yes. Penalize Monastash Group 2.5% of their 2014-2015 funding cycle, along with the stipulation for a face-to-face presentation. JD and Robert.
At what time would they have to do that? The beginning of 2014, 2015, or now?
I would say now. Robert.
I was going to ask the same question. It doesn't clarify what, like, are they reporting back for the rest of the 4-year cycle, or just ASAP, and then they show up next Wednesday?
Well, the presentation they were going to send to you, or the numbers, and you should come present in person.
Yes.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
I think that hasn't been answered. Would we have to stipulate that in the motion, that when they have to come back?
I think, no, I can stipulate that in a letter to them. As long as the stipulation for face-to-face presentation is in the motion, then I can stipulate when. Joey.
I would recommend that we include that in the motion, though.
Okay. Is that a friendly amendment? I'd like to make a friendly amendment, Ashley.
I'm listening.
Okay, I would like to entertain a motion to penalize the Monastash Group 2.5% of their 2014-2015 funding, along with the stipulation for a face-to-face presentation by March 1st regarding their annual report. Does everyone understand that?
If they do not have a face-to-face report, their funding for the following year may be revoked.
Is that what you think? Or how's that
I think we should rescind.
Okay. Ashley, do you rescind all your motions? And we'll start over?
Yes, I rescind all my motions.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to extend discussion for 5 minutes regarding this topic. Derek, second. JD, okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we have 5 more minutes. Okay. There's no motions on the table.
Okay, my question.
Yes.
Okay, so back to Tony.
It's gonna get back.
Or Sharon, whichever one. So what process would we have to go to see if they did spend the money that we did give
Pulling it
them?
up. She's pulling it
Oh,
up.
perfect, right now.
So this year, they have spent, looks like $70,
And they were awarded.
4,200.
And can I just point out that we would have been able to get that information a lot quicker if they actually sent us
Yeah, but we.
which is why we need it.
Is there any further discussion?
So are we able to stop, like, put a hold on them spending that money for the rest of the year?
Or until they do the.
Or until they do the presentation? Or do you
My
think-
only concern is we've already awarded it and it says future funding in our policy.
Yeah, exactly. It's
And
already
so
in their
there
account.
is a bit of a conflict with the word future funding, which would mean you can impact next year's, but I don't know as if you could go back the way that our policy is written.
With that said, I would like to entertain a motion to penalize the Monastash Group 2.5% of their 2014-2015 funding, along with the stipulation for a face-to-face presentation by March 1st regarding their annual report. If that report is not completed, funding will be revoked for 2014-2015. Robert,
Question.
there's a motion on.
No, you're entertaining.
There's no
Okay.
motion on the table.
Okay.
Why March 1st?
Because if they couldn't get this done in 3 months, you think you can get a face-to-face presentation done in 3 months? Probably not.
Well, exactly.
So why are we getting an extra
Why
3
would-
months?
Yeah,
They're already going to be penalized at 2.5%. So then you give them,
regardless.
regardless. So then you give them a month and a half to come and do a face-to-face.
It's 2 months. It's a month and a half.
Yeah.
Basically.
And also, just to go along with that, we also have to keep in mind for face-to-face that it has to fit on our agenda.
Fit on our agenda. We have.
And fit with the schedule of the, whoever it is that may be coming in to present this.
Robert.
Okay, after that, I can understand why. So I guess the only thing is for this, someone to make a motion for this, that if they do not do this by March 1st, the penalty triples.
No, funding is revoked 2014-2015.
Oh.
That's my motion.
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Funding will be revoked for the next year. Okay. Derek.
I'd like to, I will.
I just-
entertain the motion.
Okay. Are you moving the motion?
Entertained it, so you-
I entertained it.
You entertain, I'll move.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm just going to make a parliamentary point that only the chair can entertain motions and the members have to move.
Yes.
Yeah,
Derek meant move, not
Yeah.
entertain. So Derek, you move the motion. Okay. Robert.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Robert.
Can you just read it one more time, just so it's...
Yes. The motion is to penalize Monastash 2.5% for the 2014-2015 funding, along with the stipulation for a face-to-face presentation to the committee by March 1st regarding the annual report. Without the face-to-face presentation, funding for 2014-2015 will be revoked. Derek.
I'd like to add a friendly amendment to that. It's a very small one. That assuming that we can fit it in by that time, that if we can't, then we give them a little more time. Because we might not be able to.
We can fit it in that
I'm
time.
just saying.
Just
What if
make
we
for a
can't?
longer meeting. I decline your friendly amendment. Any further discussion? All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Thanks, guys.
That's nice, all that.
Oh, that was horrible.
All right, well, we got that done. I'll move on to section 10, new business. We'll start with base funding program reviews. I'd like to welcome Mr. Drummond with campus activities. You have the floor, sir. We'll give you 10 minutes to present and then 10 minutes for Q&A.
Where do you want me? Do I need to? Oh,
Granted.
So the camera can see.
believe me, I love short and sweet. So And I also, at least my style over the years, I know most of you are probably new to me and vice versa, so I know it's very specific in asking for a real detailed accounting, but there are pages and pages of that, and I think what I'm hoping is that you're more likely anticipating more of a broad strokes overview, such as this. So, I didn't know you had that up there, so excuse me. So anyway, I also, like I said, I'd love to make this a broad strokes overview. I want to make sure you have all the time you need for questions. But just as a real quick point, campus activities is intended as to present a broad-based program for students. It's done by students. I'm their advisor / supervisor, or the guy on the t-shirt. And the idea behind it is that we're trying to enhance and add to the students' experience here at Central. Now, that's very much the same as any one of the groups that will be presenting to you over the course of the next whatever weeks and months. But we're also looking at, like I said, in a broad-based sense, we're looking in terms of certainly entertainment, but also enhancing the educational component here at Central. So, like I like to say, we love to every so often sneak in a little bit of education along the way. We want to work with different groups on campus. So, getting to these points, our typical expenditures, range anywhere from just paying for the phones to all the way out to the goods and services of entertainment contracts, personal services contracts, etc. A lot of those are also expended on publicity, on event support services. So even if we're just doing a so-called small show, an open mic night in the pit, that still entails some event support. So there's equipment, there's personnel, etc. to support that program. Oftentimes there may be some payment involved for the entertainers and definitely for publicity expenses. Out of the overall 100, and I'm probably jumping all over the map on you here, but out of the overall program, there's about, I think this, reporting back for last year, 131,000 and I think some change that was allocated by this committee on behalf of the students of Central. And so there you go. I think it's $131,000, like $37 or something like that. The funding source is very much primarily the S&A allocation. So out of that, we also do try to bring in some revenue, generate some revenue, but it's nice to know you're reading it. So anyway, so we'll also generate some admission revenue, but for instance, on a Monday Movie Madness night, we'll probably average 10 people who pay, 10 of the general public, and they pay $3. So in the course of Monday Movie Madness, by the end of the year, we may have generated a whopping $700. But the intent of Monday Movie Madness is to present a movie program to students, primarily pre-release movies, and give them the best use of their dollar for the entertainment that they're getting on a Monday night. So for instance, the last 2 years, we've presented that to over 10,000 people in the seats. So if you translate that and you back out and you look at the approximate expense of Monday movies, that being something over $20,000, it's basically $2 a head. It's a pretty good shot for the dollar. We also have a number of other different things that take place through the year. Of course, the homecoming dance, it costs $777 just to put a stage and lights and sound on the floor. Not to mention how much it may cost for entertainment, for setups, for staffing, marketing, etc., etc. We charge occasionally a minimal, say a $5 entrance fee for that. So it'll basically either break even or at least supplement the expenses. The same with comedy nights, some of our music concerts, some of our other different special events throughout the year. So like I said, I'm trying really hard not to get into such detail that after a while it doesn't make sense. We can talk about the paper clips and everything, right? So up to this point, is this at least clear as muddy water? Yes.
The homecoming's a different budget, right?
Not,
Or is that a
good
different-
question. The homecoming show is homecoming budget.
Okay.
The homecoming dance is campus activities along with other partners. Yeah. No, thank you. Thanks for clearing that. Getting down to number 3, the organization. The organization is me, the director, and usually between 6 and 8 students. And most of the time they're in paid positions. We try to keep it just ahead of minimum wage, unless I have a student, and case in point such as Ashley, who has more time in the position, who also brings additional skill sets to it and is also taking on more of a leadership role within the activities coordinator group. And so I think she makes a whole whopping 70 cents more than the rest of the folks in the group.
Yay!
Yay! You earned every penny of it, Ashley.
Hey,
Yeah. And I don't know when all this started, so that's where I get the 1 million years ago. Because whenever campus activities started, and when or what was student activities, and even years beyond even my time here as a student, it used to actually be a student on the BOD, or in those days I think it was Board of Control or leadership group or whatever, and there was like an activities for the dance chair or something like that. But ever since, you know, I'm sure it goes back 75 years as far as funding, but in more modern times, I know at least since 1974. So, like I say, prevailing wage, I try to keep just a notch ahead of minimum wage, because usually it never fails. We'll determine a minimum wage and then they'll bump it anyway. So, and it's at least a slight enticement to try to at least make sure that I can have students that can pay for their books and a cheeseburger once in a while. So, let's see.
Let me scroll down.
Oh, there was the collaborative question, or have I jumped all the way into the, looks like I've already jumped into part 2 here. Good for me. So we really do try to collaborate. Sometimes I get nervous about that word because a lot of times it leads to cussing and discussing in a committee. But thankfully, we're either asked or oftentimes we offer to work with different groups on campus. And we certainly try to make that also some broad stroke there. We don't want it to just be in-house. You almost start feeling like you're cannibalizing yourself if you just keep it too close to home. So we had an opportunity for a couple of years to work with the Latino and Latin American Studies group and help them with their Hispanic film series. And so we were actually able to, through a little wheeling and dealing with a couple of distributors and even at one point directly with the director of a film, work out some nice deals, and we're able to help fund some of that programming to reach out into that program. And throughout the course of the year, whether it's homecoming or student appreciation or any other number of things, we'll work with everyone from alumni to athletics, recreation, CDSJ, all the other acronyms on campus. We always try to work very strongly with the idea that we know for a fact, you know, I can't give you numbers and really substantiate it, but we know, just like all of us, we're very much part of the recruitment and retention process on the campus. And that's not patting ourselves on the back, that's just fact. Hopefully, all of us are doing that. And so we want to make sure that we're definitely willing to step up and get in front of it and at least stand alongside anybody and everybody that's doing that. So we know that anything just as so-called simple as an open mic night, we know that may have an influence on a student just feeling like they've actually had a little more comfort here and a little more involvement here, to be able to feel like they've had a great experience at Central. Like I said, we work with a number of different areas. We'll co-sponsor a number of events. We'll put in some so-called sweat equity along the way. So sometimes we don't necessarily fund a program, but we'll definitely jump in alongside and we'll bolster it up with some of our people power, and we'll absorb those expenses. Yes, sir.
2 minutes.
Oh, 2. And there you go, not to sound all lofty here, but I don't normally speak this way, so I paraphrased a little bit, but the advancing of campus engagement, that's what we're about. If we're not doing that, then we're not campus activities. So that almost sounds like a commercial. We always want to encourage collaboration. We always want to make sure that we're working on our own skill sets. My students are awesome at if just like all of you, when you come in at the beginning and hopefully when you leave at the end, you've really worked on and enhanced your professional development, your academic development, and your personal development. And if I'm not helping with that, then boot me. We want to be inclusive. We don't ever want anybody to feel like we did anything that would cause somebody to feel like they were embarrassed or prohibited from being involved in any of our programming or anything to do with this college. And again, like I say, all of these things I think any of us could say. And I'll throw my own 2 cents. I hope we all would say this at some course.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Okay, it's really tough to really pin down our students. We've never been head counters. Monday movies, we finally started doing that, and we truly have put 10,000 bodies in seats. So we deal with that many people, but we know a lot of them are repeaters. So it may be 3,000 individual brand new faces every year for that program. We do know that we have some what we call the regulars, but we also see a lot of new faces every week, and so we got that going for us. But by the time you do XYZ open mics and comedy nights and dances and so on and so forth, it's really difficult to really pin down who's a brand new one to us and who is a repeater. So with that in mind, we're going to endeavor to try to start determining that better. But I don't know if there's a science that really determines it really in a finite way. So.
All right, you're at 10 minutes.
So there you go.
We'll open it up for discussion.
Yeah, right. I prefer that than talking to you.
10 minutes of Q&A. We'll start with Derek.
Yeah.
So I have a question. How do you determine whether or not somebody is a student when they go to a Monday Movie Madness?
Thank you. We actually require that they show us their connection card. Yes, sir?
I was going to say, since you have their connection card, you can't keep track of them that way?
We don't swipe it. We just want to see it.
So wouldn't you get better statistics if you knew who was coming in and out, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would involve yeah. But again, that would involve some mechanics. That would involve some actual machinery, and yeah, and it would also quite honestly slow down our process of getting people in and out of the seats because we do 2 shows a night. And so we've got a turnover situation where, if it was just once in and once out, yeah, but that would be my concern is we would have to expand and make the program run later. Yeah.
Connie?
Yeah.
I really like that Derek's thought because it does give us an idea of how many we're starting. Can't you do student clickers?
We do.
We do that in Wellington's and just.
Yeah, we do. We want to see the card and we do the clicker.
The issue is repeaters though. You can't. Yeah, you might have 10,000, but it's not 10,000 new people every time. I go almost every week. I love it. Any further questions? Derek?
Derek, I'm sorry to jump in on you, but there are some programs that we do have that specific mechanism, especially if we're using a ticketed program. So if, for instance, on an upcoming comedy night that we're going to be doing, that's a ticketed show, and so it's free for students, but it's $5 for non-students. So we're going to have that ability to count that.
Mary Lambert.
Huh?
Mary Lambert.
Well, yeah, this weekend with Mary Lambert, that'll take place. We could go back in Wildcat Tickets and look at who did we have here for the Macklemore show, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I have a question about Monday Movie Madness.
Oh, sure.
Why is it that you only show new releases? You know what I mean? Like second run new releases. Why don't you show like cool art?
They showed older movies last year.
Did they?
Well, on occasion. So what we try to do is show pre-release because quite honestly that is pre-release, by the way, it's a non-theatrical release. It's done its run, and now it's available to colleges, churches, airlines, all that kind of stuff. We try to do the ones that are prior to, say, Redbox, rental, purchase, etc. Because quite honestly, that's what the students really like. We do every so often try to salt in, say, what's a classic. And now the fun thing is now classics are now Top Gun and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So anyway, but that's fine. But once in a while we'll do that. We used to do it actually morphed out of the classic film series where we did show older movies, international movies, etc. And quite honestly, we tried to. It was on life support, and we finally said, you know what, the students are the ones really calling for this, so let's do that. And all of a sudden our numbers went from, I remember our last year we had a total of 1,400 people attend. And like I say now, we had that many by the middle of last quarter. So, yeah.
Are there any further questions from the committee? Last call?
Really?
No? Okay.
Really? That's it?
Thank you, Mr. Drummond. We
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much. Thanks for the support. We'll keep trying to do something silly.
Before we have career services come up, I'm going to entertain a motion to recess for 8 minutes till 7 o'clock. Is there a second? Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, well, motion passes. We're back at 7. At 7:02 p.m. It's a good recess. We'll come back and we'll do our second base funding program review. And we have Vicki here with Career Services, Peer Advisor Program. You take the floor.
Great, thank you guys. Also, while I have the opportunity, some of you were here when we got this funding last year, and I want to thank you for the funding. We don't often get to say thank you. And I do really appreciate it because I created this program in 2006 and supervised it up until June, July of 2013. And then they have a new supervisor, Elena Nickerson, who couldn't be here tonight, so she asked me to do her presentation. So I will try to do it right. But I do respond better to questions. However, I will go over the materials. I know you have packages of information that answer most of your questions, so this is really just the short stuff. So we wanted to start with learning objectives. We have a ton of them, and Elena broke them down into kind of headings. So the first one, develop professional skills, is a learning objective for the peer advisors because we want to train the peer advisors to be basically professionals that can share their skills with students and help them become professionals as well. So it's kind of a train-the-trainer model. So we, as you can see, help them with presenting, project management, role modeling, communication, administrative tasks, and marketing skills. Then in turn, we also train them to be able to review resumes and cover letters, interviewing skills, and job search. Those are the main things that they're trained on, that when students come in, they can talk to students about those particular things. The last part is they help us figure out what kinds of programs that we can do with students. So they're involved with all of the committees that we have at Career Services, and we have a few of them. They have input into all kinds of workshops Career Services gives to the general campus. They also help us with our marketing strategies because they know better than we do how to reach students. And they have input into the actual peer program itself. So they get to I think it's at the end of every year, we say, well, here's the program, what do you think? Change whatever you want, and we'll respond to it. So we can change that. Thank you. The numbers. So it's been funded since 2006. This year we only had 3 students. They were carryover from the previous year. The past years we've had up to 5 peer advisors. And I'm not counting, we have a peer advisor on the west side, but they're coming out of the west side of the budget. They are funded a little bit more than minimum wage, so currently they're at $10. They start at $9.50 and then they go to $10 if they commit to a second year or further years. We pay the lead advisor a little bit more money because they have a little more additional responsibilities. We've been trying really hard to keep better statistics. Last time I presented this, I gave some figures and I was like, I don't think this is quite right, but this time I think we got them fairly accurate. So in this fall quarter alone, they served 795 students. And that's because fall quarter is one of the busiest quarters for career services. We do major events, and we also participate in additional experiences like orientation, etc. So, but they also did 124 resume and cover letter reviews. So that's pretty good. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what that means, resume reviews, resume and cover letter reviews. So we're going to move to the next slide. So how do we decide on the programs and services that we provide to students? When we started, we did focus groups, asked students what they wanted from the peer advisor program. We did surveys, and then we followed peer advisor suggestions. And actually, the resume and cover letter drop-ins that the peers do now came from a peer advisor. They said, this is what we should do for students. And I was like, okay, let's try it. And it turned out to be hugely successful. And it is just growing in popularity. Last week, first week of school, we already had people coming in for resume and cover letter reviews. That's hardly ever happened to us. So it's a big program. So now what we're doing is we're looking at student demand. If you ask us for something and we don't have it, we're going to try to make it happen. And so that's what's driving the resume drop-ins. Peer advisors, they can come up with their own projects. Some want to do workshops for students, specifically on a topic that's important to them. So last year, for example, one of the peers did a program about tattoos and piercings for students, talking about that, how to handle those in interviews. So they have their own projects that they can do as well. Next slide. So currently, we are also, every event we do, every workshop we do evaluations asking students what they want from us and from the peer advisors. And I mentioned that they're involved in the committees. Every quarter they're evaluated, so we're continually getting their input into what should we be doing, how do you want to direct this experience. And at the end of the year, they're not only evaluated by their supervisor, they're evaluated by the director as well, so that we get, kind of the layers of their input. So these are our partners who we're collaborating with. We are a partner in the Academic and Research Commons. This quarter, we have a peer advisor in the ARC 5 days a week. And we also provide evening drop-ins for students, so that was another thing we were able to offer. The peer advisors go into the residence halls and do presentations with the students there on any of the topics that they're trained in. And they're starting to work on those. They also present to clubs, and they co-facilitate presentations in classrooms. So every, we get requests for presentations from all sorts of majors on campus. Today I had a peer advisor do a presentation with me on internships to general population. So they're involved with everybody, I think, on campus. How do we support the university goals? So this one is related to graduate job and graduate placement rates. With peer advisors, we really appreciate them because I don't think we could keep up with the demand for resume and cover letter reviews without them. And they're basically helping students build their skills to get jobs and into graduate school, because they do review graduate school materials as well. They increase the student use and impact of services. They're in the CERC tabling all the time with us at various events, so that they can tell students about career services and what career services can do for them. So they're a huge resource. Next one, last one. This was kind of a weird one for me, but I had to think about it. So we intentionally recruit peers from a variety of backgrounds because we think that's important. And so they're in the hiring process. So usually we hire new peer advisors in April and May of spring quarter for September of fall quarter. So they're involved in the hiring process. They ask the questions, they make the decisions about who is going to be new peer advisors, so they are involved in efforts to be more inclusive on campus. And I'm trying to think what else I can tell you about that. There's lots of information, I think, in the handout. Future stuff Elena wanted me to talk about is, about the budget. The majority of the money goes to the salaries for the peer advisors. That's the way it's always been. We spend very little money on goods and services. The only thing we've ever bought them, okay, I take that back, a couple things. We bought them shirts so they could be identified at events that say peer advisor on the back. And we've bought them, I think, pizza once for a meeting. So we're very conscious about how we're spending the money. We want to spend it on, we want to invest it in the students and give them a good experience, the peer advisors, but then they impact a lot of students with what they do.
We have about 2 minutes.
Okay. And so, yeah, that's about it for now. Questions?
We'll open up the committee for questions. Does anyone have any questions? We'll start with Joey.
I was just wondering, you said you have 3 peer advisors this year, but you had 5 previously. If it was
right.
a reason
Why?
for that, or it just wasn't.
So we often try different things, and so for this current fiscal year, we decided to expand their hours because they're already trained. So they have actually more hours than typical. So usually if we hire 5 peer advisors, they get 10 hours a week or less. This time we've got peer advisors working 17 hours. So it's the same amount of hours. So it really depends on where the needs are. Like, do we need people who are trained right off the bat, or if we're bringing in a whole new crew, we have to consider that too, because they can't do the work right off the bat. They have to be trained to do it. So, other questions?
Any further questions?
Yeah.
John?
I had a question. A slide in your presentation indicated that I think about 120 students came for resume and cover letter drop-in reviews. So I had a few questions related to that. First, is that basically the maximum that the students could see? And if not, what kind of efforts are being done to increase the outreach so more students can take advantage of that service? Secondly, are the peer advisors the only ones who do that kind of resume and cover letter review, or are the other staff in your program also doing that? And if so, if there are multiple different kinds of people doing it, how do you decide which of the students go to see peer advisors and which go to see the, I guess, more professional staff, the staff with the deeper training? And I thought I had one more question, but maybe just those 2.
That sounds like 3 to me.
Yeah.
I think I can manage, and if I don't get it right, I'll try it again. So the first one was about
whether it's the maximum that
maximum.
you can.
Okay, that's a good question because the drop-in hours basically say you can drop in between 10 and noon. What's a maximum? Hard to know, right? Because if you're reviewing a resume, it can take you 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So we do have lineups for it. So I don't know if we have a maximum number, but that's a good point. We could potentially restrict it. I wouldn't want to do that and say we can only spend 5 minutes with you, So that's hard to say. So that's why we want to keep better statistics, because it's been challenging to get them to write them down. So, okay, the second one was, are there other people who do it? The career counselors do that as well. So we have 2 full-time career counselors on this campus, plus a counselor intern who's 10 months. So they do them as well. So the peers are trained to do, depending on their background and experience, what I would call basic resumes. So they can look and say, you don't have the format right, or the cover letters too, you need this, whatever. When it comes to more complicated stuff, they're referred to a career counselor for that. So it's not like you can just come to drop-ins, you get both. So, and they know that, or they should know that if it's too complicated, they should make a referral. Yeah, did that answer all of it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there any further questions? Connie?
I just had a real quick one. The only thing that concerned me about the 3 versus the 5 is if they're on the same age group, is that a problem with your succession planning? I mean, are you going to lose all your trained people at the same time, or you stagger it?
We stagger them, yeah, so that's exactly what we try to do. So that was on the list. After fall quarter, we'll have the one peer advisor who will continue, and she's probably the best trained peer advisor. So we do try to not have it so we have like a quarter with more training. Yeah.
Derek?
Could we move back to the previous line? Which, yeah, that's the one with the numbers. So how are those numbers derived?
Mm-hmm.
And are they unique students?
Yes.
So
Yeah, so they, the way that, I know this sounds really barbaric, but true. It's basically writing them down, you know, every person you talk to, we have them mark them down on a piece of paper. So for tabling, you know, you could be sitting there and you have 10 scratches, 10 uniques, right? It's not, they're not counting the double ones.
well, but that's each time. So if 10
Oh, yeah,
people
you're
come
right.
to the table
You're
every
right.
day, then that's
Right.
671.
You're right. Correct. So it's not perfect,
Yeah.
for sure.
But for the actual resume cover letter reviews, which is not at the table, it's in your office, right?
No, they're in the library.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure if last quarter they did the Cirque Hallway as well, and then our office.
So you keep track of who it is that is getting helped?
Yeah.
Okay, so you do know that those
Yeah.
are 124 individuals?
Yeah.
Is there any further questions? Last call? All right.
Great.
Thanks, Vicki. I know I've utilized your program. I think it's great. So. Yes. No, career services is awesome. So you guys definitely use it. Definitely use it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vicki. All right. We'll move on to section 11, other business communications received. I have none. Okay. Move on to public comment, second call. Rich is not here, so we have none. So, with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Derek. Rob. Any discussion? No friendly amendments? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Meeting adjourned at 7:17 p.m. Thank you, guys.